Hey guys, so it's Liam. I haven't done a video since I started school because I just really haven't had time. But I have time now, so I'm going to do one. And so I'm not going to talk about any physical changes in this one. It's just going to be a life update because this Thursday is actually my 6 months on T. What? So that's awesome. So I'll probably just do a big video on physical changes then, because there's not really point going over things now because nothing's going to change in a week. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was 2 weeks ago my testosterone was changed because I switched to a different pharmacy, which I kind of have mixed feelings about. So first let me go over what's different. So this is my old vial. It's testosterone cypionate made by Watson, and it comes in a big old 10 milliliter vial. So it's about 2 to 3 months supply. Right. Okay. And now this is what I'm on. This tiny little vial. Let me show you the size difference. Big difference. Okay. So this is 1 milliliter. And I would be, and they didn't just give me one vial, they gave me like 4 or 5 or something, I can't remember. And so I would be fine with this under normal circumstances, but, well, not normal circumstances, I should say in someone else's circumstances, because, so, like, since this 1 milliliter, I'd be okay if I had this and I was on, like, a half a cc or a whole cc dose. But I'm not. I'm actually in between. So as you can see in this little sucker, I have a little bit left there, but it's not enough for a whole dose. So basically, every other time I do my shot, I'm going to have to use 2 needles. And I use I think it's a 25 gauge needle on a 3 milliliter syringe. And I used to have a separate drawing needle, and inject a needle, but now I just use one, and it just takes a little longer to draw the oil because it's so thick. So I'll be basically throwing away empty syringes, which kind of annoys me. And the brand that this one is PGPs. You guys see that, but with quality or like the actual substance, I haven't noticed any differences. So, that's good. And it's actually a little easier to see the needle in the vial because this one's like clear, whereas this one is tinted. So that made it a little harder. So I kind of have mixed feelings about it. But I haven't noticed any like bad changes or differences in quality, so, I'm just going to take what I can get. I'm not going to get picky about it. The other thing I wanted to mention was last Wednesday I had my first job interview presenting as male. And I posted about this on Facebook, and a lot of people sent me like congratulations and stuff like that and said I was brave, but it really wasn't that brave because the interview was with another trans person at the College Diversity Center, so it wasn't like I was like, being really bold or anything. But it was a much better experience for me because I definitely felt way more comfortable with myself. And so overall, that was just like the best job interview I've ever had, for multiple reasons, but I felt really good about the experience. So it was a big personal milestone. It's something that I feel really happy, I feel happy that I'm at this point in my life. Another thing I wanted to mention was this is also the first term of school where I am out as a trans man and using I'm using my preferred name and pronouns in all of my classes. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how I personally do this. And I've been using preferred name and pronouns in classes for, over a year now. So it's been a couple of terms because I'm on the quarter system. But this is the first time where I've done it in every class because before, like if I was in a class that had like 100 people, where the teacher doesn't really call your name or anything, I would just kind of grin and bear it because I didn't really see a point, because the teacher wasn't going to remember me, and like it just seemed like an excess of effort. But this year I decided that I was going to do it because it's something that I felt I needed to do. So what I did was I sent an email out to all of my teachers about a week in advance before classes started, saying hello, letting them know that I am a trans man. I use male pronouns, and I go by my preferred name of Liam. And I got a lot of great support from the faculty, but a few teachers I wasn't able to track down their email. Sometimes that has to do with, I'm sure you guys have looked at catalogs where it'll say taught by English faculty or something, because they haven't pinned down who the teacher is yet. Or PE teachers, they don't give their email very often. So what I did before that was I always pulled the teacher aside 5 minutes before class, or whenever I could, and then I would just break it down for him, on the first day, preferably before roll call, because nothing's more mortifying than having your birth name called out in front of a bunch of people that you're about to meet, because then it's kind of you don't get to dictate the situation, and then you have the whole thing of relearning names and pronouns, because if you just tell them off the bat, it's, no problem at all. So, and it's also kind of awkward because they don't exactly look that feminine anymore, so when people hear my birth name or female pronouns, they kind of go, what? So that was something that I really took the initiative to do, and so now I'm going by the right name and pronouns in all of my classes, which has really been a big relief. Excuse me, sorry. And that has made the year so much better already. And I also wanted to talk about how I talk to other students about my name and pronouns. This hasn't really been an issue so far this year, because I went out of my way to, make sure that my birth name wasn't used in roll call or part of any component of the class. And so I've been able to just, introduce myself as Liam, and that's how the teacher calls on me, so there's no conflict. But when I do have to, I should give a little backstory on this. So, I started studying with this guy in one of my classes, and I didn't realize this until I asked him if he wanted to come over and study in my apartment. But he had no idea that I was female-bodied or a trans person. He just thought I was a short biological male. And so what ended up happening was I told him who my roommate was, who he knew. And even though I'm in transgender, open gender housing, I still have to be roomed with someone else who's female-bodied, because it's just a rule of the campus, I guess. And so he knew that my roommate was female-bodied, and so he was like, wait, they let people of the opposite sex room together? And I was like, well, kind of. I told him, well, I am in open gender housing, and I told him, and I am female-bodied, I'm a trans man. And then he was like, oh. But, I try to explain to people that, I always use the word, female-bodied, or say, I'm a trans man, I never say things like, I was born a woman, or anything like that kind of takes away from my identity, because I want my primary identity to be that I am, in fact, male, and I don't want there to be any room for doubt with that. So that's, kind of my advice, and be slightly assertive about it, That's something important for everybody, something that I hear sometimes where they say, oh, so you're born a girl. They're trying to break it out into their own, terms and make it in a way that they understand, but when they do that, they're kind of dictating your identity. But you just have to be firm and say, no, no, I'm not born a girl, or no, I wasn't born a girl, I was assigned female at birth, and I'm female-bodied, but I am, in fact, a man. You know, you have to be assertive and kind of set the tone and the ground rules for it, because you don't want to have to deal with that, like, problem reoccurring over and over again, you know? If you're assertive the first time, people usually back off. So that was just my, like, advice and experience on that, which is how, you know, and obviously there's a time and place, and every situation is different, but generally I found that that's something that works pretty well. I also wanted to mention that aside from the 6-month update, I will also probably do a video with my roommate Bucket, who's a genderqueer, awesome person. And I was also thinking of doing a Q&A with my girlfriend, but I don't really know which questions to ask her. So if you guys have any ideas, please let me know. Oh, I also was thinking of doing a video on binding, but there are a lot of those out there, so I'm not quite sure on it yet. I also wanted to mention that I'm going to post it on the description of this link. I haven't really been putting it on my other videos, but I did have it in my first video, and I mentioned it there, that I have the Trans Resources Google Doc. So please do send me messages if you have any ideas for things that should be added to it. I'm definitely looking for more resources for male to female trans people and genderqueer people, because I've had more difficulty finding those. And, you know, just anything that the trans community in general, you know, would find useful. And definitely check out the document yourself. It really has everything there that you need to get started on your own transition, whether it's physical, emotional, mental. All of the resources are there, and I'd like to expand that and make it even more encompassing for the trans community. So please do check that out and help with it if you can. Alright guys, have an awesome day.